Okay, we've got the 3-minute rule. I've got to pay attention here because of the timing is just so. Okay. Okay, I think we are finally fixed most of the issues. Oh boy. Yeah. Setting up these live streams in special live streams in StreamYard is just a pain. OBS does things so simple. And not maybe not simple, but once you get into the into the flow of doing live streams through OBS Studio, having to go to straight StreamYard is just not easy. And we've had to deal with things like we've had to do things like fix audio cables and audio cable, by the way, is a software. It's not a hardware. So it's not like I can replace a physical device here. So this has not been fun. Not been fun. But welcome, and we got it going here, and we're glad you could make it for this very, very special live stream. Okay, now what makes this stream so special is that we are talking about this book. We're spilling all the tea on All the Stars as Angels Book 2. We'll also spill any tea you want spilled on Book 1 as well. Okay, but we're specifically talking today about the War of the Gods series. Okay, so that's what we're doing in today's live stream. So we're not going to be taking any questions on ancient Egypt and the Bible specifically. Okay, if you want to ask those questions, we have another live stream going on Friday where you can do that. Okay, so that's what we're here for, is spilling tea, getting the background story, maybe talking about my writing process, publishing industry, whatever you want to talk about related to the science fiction books. Okay, so so this is going to be exciting. All right. Now, we did have some questions come in prior to the live stream, so we will be. Oh, one other thing. There is a link at the pinned to the live chat, and if you want to come in and personally talk to me on this live stream, you're free to do so. So, and hopefully that'll work. No guarantees. So we will see if it works. Yeah, so we're gonna strike ahead here, okay? Okay, we got 4 questions before the live stream began. From Harry Stark. And none of these are super chats, but we're going to be taking all questions tonight related to the novel, as long as they're relevant and on topic and won't get me sued. Okay. Now, the first question he asks is, will the novels be adapted into a visual novel video game? And the answer to that is no. We're not going to be adapting the novel into a visual novel video game. We are working on a visual novel video game, but not related to these books. These books are probably not going to adapt well to the visual novel format. So we probably won't be adapting them for that purpose. Okay. Second question. Will the audiobooks contain voice acting with different voice actors? Oh boy. The audiobook is an issue. And it's an issue right now because there's a lot of uncertainty in the audiobook publishing industry. A lot of uncertainty. Audible's new contract has raised an absolute furor with authors. And I can see why they're not happy. Spotify just recently bought out Find Away Voices, so we're still seeing what's going to shake out from that. The audio format is incredibly expensive to produce. Okay, really, really expensive. It typically costs about $3,000 to produce an audiobook. So CPM dust. Yay, more consolidation. Yeah, that's what we want. More consolidation. Mama says Audible is owned by Amazon, correct? If so, enough said. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it is. And it's that contract, that new contract, Audible contract, is so bad It's not even funny. They want to turn it into a streaming subscription service. So, but what's ending up happening is they are splitting the profits of that streaming service between what people read in a month's period. So you get 50% of royalties just as long as that reader doesn't use any other audio book, in which case that gets divided between two people. And some of that is even siphoned off the top to pay for Amazon's own content. So you're going to get pennies on the dollar by the time it's all done. So it's a really, really bad contract. Mama says the greed of that company knows no bounds. Yeah, really. Yeah, it's that the greed of that company has made writing books to be almost a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. You're not making any profit anymore. Thanks to Amazon, the royalties on these books now have descended to about $2 a copy. It used to be if you self-published, you could get maybe 6 or 8 out of it. Now it's 2. And that's all thanks to Amazon's insistence on deep discounts. So it's bad. It's never been worse. So the idea that we're going to be doing an audiobook, well, we aren't going to do one with different voice actors anyway, because if you do it with different voice actors, you're talking about not $3,000. You're talking more like you're talking in the tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, it's just you need a lot of staff then to do that and pull that all together. So Haystack asks, so if you had 3,000 extra right now, we could get an audiobook. Well, you would, but you could it probably wouldn't be that great. We've tried to put together an audiobook. It still needs some editing, but until the situation with the publishers becomes clearer, we're not going to make any promises. We have done most of the recording for the first book to make it an audiobook, but again, it's just one of those things where it's difficult to create a good product, and the incentive is not so much there when the publishers are playing games with the contracts. So, okay, so that answers the audiobook question. Next question. Are the novels rated PG-13? I don't know. Would you think? I'd say they're PG-13 for light profanity, and there is some violence. Yes, there is some violence. So nothing gratuitous, but there is some violence and some mild profanity or occasional profanity. So that probably would place it in the PG-13. It's certainly not G. It's not a Disney production. Not that Disney productions are G anymore, but yeah, and it's not a Christian bubble. People do drink in the books. They do what adult non-believers do. So, but it's also not graphic either. Yeah, Mama says things happen that are not described. Yes, and that's for the best that they're not described. Okay. Wow. CPM versus DOS. My copy of Hammer Dracula with Christopher Lee is rated G. Not kidding. That is not a G film. That is not a G film. Yeah, that's not a G-rated film. Okay. Special. Mama says, Doc made me nervous beta reading, but it turned out okay. It's a science fiction book, yeah. And the characters in the book are not Christians. They are more or less atheists, and they act like atheists. And one is a Marine. So one's a freedom fighter or a former freedom fighter, and one's an Egyptologist. And I hate to break anyone's bubbles here. A lot of Egyptologists are very foul-mouthed. Okay? You know, you kind of think of academia as being all prim, proper, and very British. I had a professor at the University of Liverpool. Went to private school. He was private school educated. Went through the Oxford system. Oh my gosh, the stuff that came out of his mouth in class. Oh my goodness. That dude could swear a blue streak. My characters don't do that, by the way, but Mama says, and one is a Marine and one is an Egyptologist. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so the novels are probably rated PG-13. That's probably a fair rating for it. Okay, fourth question. David does not have a multi-billion-dollar marketing campaign to advertise the novels. What causes him to be hopeful of having influence in the culture when marketing is non-existent? Well, okay. It's a good question. I have books that are both traditionally published and indie published. Neither one of those has a multi-billion marketing campaign. In fact, neither of those endings, or none of those books, have a marketing campaign at all. The book I published with my traditional publisher, which is the Ark of the Covenant in its Egyptian context, the marketing budget for that was $0. Yeah, they basically put it on a table at conferences, and that was their marketing. Yeah, and that was 2 years after it came out. So yeah, it came down during the COVID, but yeah. So when I asked my trad publisher, talk to my trad publisher about this, their question to me was, how do you plan on marketing your book? I thought to myself at the time, isn't that your job? No, apparently it's not anymore. Unless they think they can turn your book into a runaway bestseller, they will put absolutely zero effort into marketing in the book. So we do have someone who's joined on here, so we will probably bring him up here in a moment here, and if I can figure out how to do it. Okay, so green. Let's see here. Do this.
Hello, sir.
Hey, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. And you are?
Okay. New name.
New name. Okay.
It's my new name. Yes, sir. I have one question. It might be slightly off topic, but I'd like to ask it.
Nope. No
Uh,
off-topic questions.
okay,
We are on
stars,
topic tonight.
stars as angels. This is,
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, a metaphor or a analogy that are used for angels, let's say in Revelation.
Sure.
Now, I want to ask you your opinion. Why do you think that is? What's the analogy there?
Oh, the analogy, it's analogical language. It's analogical language. It's how do you relate something divine to something we all experience? It's
Right.
like, for example, in Genesis, when it talks about the flood, it talks about the windows of heaven opening up. There's not real windows in the sky. It's an analogy. It's analogical language, and a lot of analogical language involves taking the experience of everyday life and raising it up into the drama of the gods. So when you talk about, say, angelic beings, the closest thing they can relate to that is, say, stars in the sky.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Because of the light, being in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
different reasons like that.
They also saw the stars at times in the form of the planets move. So moving is associated with life itself.
Okay. All right. Well, that was pretty much my question. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Glad you could join us. New name. I hope you continue to join us for our live streams. If you have more questions like that, the best place to ask it is on our Friday night live streams.
Okay. Thank you.
All
I'll
right,
talk to you later.
pleasure. Bye bye. Okay. Now, next question here. We did get Andrew Guler post 2 questions on the other live stream that are probably more related to this one. So we'll take those 2 next, and then we can move on to the ones that are posted here. Okay, and then so I should actually wrap up that last question on the marketing campaigns. The one thing about marketing campaigns too is there's no money in marketing campaigns anymore for published works. So you are any marketing has to fall is pretty much falls on the author now. So you as an author have to be able to put together a marketing campaign of some type. And authors are not good at this. I'm not good at this. So this is why we always make pleas to you guys to leave reviews. Okay? Leave reviews of the books on Amazon. It's probably the best thing you can do to help us with the marketing campaign. So for us, the marketing campaign is one of those things where, you know, it's a long game. It's a long game. So over time, as we build up a catalog and people become more familiar with the work, it'll start gaining traction, and then either it'll succeed as a series or it'll fail. But you don't know, and you don't know what traction what your work is going to have with a culture until you put it out there and try. And that's what we've done. Is we've got 2 books out there. We're putting it out there. We're trying to make some traction with the culture. Because right now, the fiction market is full of really dark stuff. Okay, really, really dark stuff. A lot of monster corn. So, we want to change that. We want to change the quality of fiction. We want to raise it up, and we want people to experience good literature as well as a fun story. Okay, so I think that answers the marketing question. Let's take Andrew Guler's questions, and then we will continue on here. Okay, the first question Andrew Guler asked is, have you ever read C.S. Lewis's That Hideous Strength? You both use the theme of evil spirits attempting to exterminate all organic life. I have not read That Hideous Strength. I've heard about it, but I've never actually read it. The idea of evil spirits attempting to exterminate all organic life is not a theme that was even unique to C.S. Lewis at the time. That's always sort of been the modus operandi of evil spirits. So, and this goes back all the way to the early church. The early church had always seen evil spirits as completely destructive to human life and flourishing. So absolutely, That Hideous Strength and the War of the Gods series do share common themes, but these are themes that go all the way back to the earliest times of Christianity. So anyway, thank you for that really generous super chat. Really appreciate it. Again, we moved that from the other stream to this one because it's more applicable to this stream. And then we got a second one from him here. And it reads, again, thank you very much for that super chat for $20. He says, did you draw the robots with 6 arms and 18 eyes on paper before you started writing them? Or did you just write them from the beginning? I didn't draw them. Now, I could have, but I didn't. The classes of robots, the robots in our novel are organized by class. And it was more of a historical world building thing. It was every class of robots served a unique purpose prior to the Fourth World War. Okay, there are 4 world wars in my fictional universe, and before the Fourth World War, robots were generally in society, and they served a variety of functions. And every robot had its own unique function in Earth society and Earth culture. So what I figured was, well, if there was a robot that did management, they were like assembly line workers, middle management for lower paid human workers. What would that look like? It would look like the ultimate robot that could organize data, that could do tasks quickly. So the whole idea of having 6 arms and 18 eyes was to help its supervisory capacities. Yeah.
Extra arm.
Yeah. So it's got eyes on the back of its head. It can see 360 degrees. Anything else getting buffering? That's got to be a StreamYard thing. That's got to be StreamYard doing this. Great. Wonderful. So, Mama asks, have you written a complete the Articles of the Armistice? Yes. The entire Articles of the Armistice are included in the epilogues to All the Stars as Angels, but I wrote the Articles of Armistice before writing the book. I already had the Articles of Armistice written in book 1. So I knew where that was going to go. So, yeah, StreamYard does, when I go directly through StreamYard, there's some issues, but I'm not seeing any. There's no buffering on my end. Let me see if we're getting here. YouTube thinks it's fine. This has got to be happening through StreamYard. This has got to be a StreamYard issue. Oh, lovely StreamYard. This is why I don't normally stream on StreamYard. Okay, so yes, we did write a complete articles of the armistice. We wrote it before writing the book, so we knew that the armistice was going to be an important foundational document prior to book 2. So we really wrote book 2 around the articles of armistice. So yeah, to get back to Andrew Guler's question here, we did just write the Class B administrator robots with that 6 arms and 18 eyes in mind. And we didn't draw them. It was just, this is what would have made sense for a robot that was essentially a manager who did management functions. So I hope that helped. Thank you for the question. Okay, so that's his second question here. Now, all the way up here. Okay, CPN versus DOS for $10. Thank you for the super chat. Will we be seeing more of this spirit critter soon? Oh, yeah. Book 3. Book 3 is going to have a lot of spirit critter in it. You'll get to see the spirit critter in book 3. And if we've done our job right, it will be terrifying. CPN versus DOS. I had a laugh when I saw what Peter called him. Yep. Well, I can't think of anything that describes these beasts, these beings better than spirit critters, really. And I do have to thank Tui for that description, because it's a really, really apt description. So I have borrowed that. So it really does work well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It really does work well. Okay, so yes, you'll be seeing a lot more spirit critter in book 3. Okay, crazy amount of spirit critter in book 3. In fact, book 3 is all about dealing with the spirit critter. Okay, 3 Quarks Crazed for $5. Thank you for the super chat. Is the description of the great AI based on Ezekiel 1:6, Zechariah 3:9, and Zechariah 4:10b? Don't know. Let me check that. Let me read that. Let me pull up my Bible here. I wasn't thinking about the great AI directly based upon it, but it might have had some inspiration. Let's see what that says. Okay, 1:16. Okay, this is the wheels. Verses 15 to 16. Now, as I looked at the living beings, behold, there was one wheel on the earth beside the living beings, for each of the 4 of them. The appearance of the wheels and their workmanship was like sparkling beryl. All 4 of them had the same form. The appearance of workmanship as if one wheel within another. All right. Now, the description of the great AI is not based upon this, but the 4 drones that surround the great AI are based on this. Okay, the 4 drones are these big, massive, 4 guardian drones that hover around the great AI, and they are described as having propellers that keep them up in the air, which look like wheels within wheels. and they're covered with eyes. So, absolutely, the throne drones are based upon the throne cherubim, and in Ezekiel 1:15-16, it is talking about these throne cherubim. So the throne drones are, but the great AI isn't. Now, Zechariah 3:9. Let's look at Zechariah 3. Zechariah 3, verse 9. For behold, the stone I have set before Joshua, on one stone are 7 eyes. Behold, I engrave an inscription on it, and I will remove the iniquity of the land in that day. I wasn't aware of this verse in any way, so this wasn't an influence. About 4:10. But these 7 will be glad to see you, the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. These are the eyes of the Lord, which will range to and fro throughout the earth. Okay. That could describe the great AI, but that wasn't a verse I had in mind when I described the great AI. So, Mama says, I loved that interpretation of wheels within wheels. Well, if you think about it, on the nacelles that you see on drones, they look like wheels, even though they're basically propeller housings. They do look like wheels, and if you look at them just right, it does look like there's wheels within the wheels, causing the drones to float. It's a really interesting description that you could apply to a drone. So when I came up with this idea of the great AI surrounded by 4 black drones with many eyes and these nacelles, yeah, the wheels within wheels is a perfect description of them. She says, and it allows them to move in the way it's described. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it was like, okay, this is going to be spot on for this particular piece of the book. Okay. Okay, so I hope that answers this question. Ezekiel 1:16 was used to describe the throne, the drones around the throne of the great AI, but the other 2 verses I hadn't had in mind when I was describing the great AI. So hope that helps. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Mama for $2. Thank you for the super chat. She asks, do you think faster than light travel is viable in real life? I think, and that's a good question. I think it is. I think it's possible. Are we likely to see it in our lifetime? No, we're probably not likely to see it in our lifetime. But I do think if that the laws of physics are just tweakable enough that faster than light travel could be possible. Okay? I don't know if we'll ever achieve it. I don't know if we could do the power dynamics enough where we are able to do it in a way that's affordable. That's always a huge question too, is just because you can do it, can you make it economically viable to do? So I think it could be possible. Is it economically viable? That's a completely different question. So Mama says, I think the energy necessary to make it happen may be on a table. Maybe. But that's also one of the reasons why we did things the way we did it too. Like, for example, we took a look at, say, if you did, say, relativistic travel, yeah, okay, you're going to be just churning out tons and tons and tons of of energy to do things. Okay, but you know what? There was a time when people thought that you needed a lot of power to run a television. Okay, that you had to just pump electricity through these cathode ray tubes to get a good visual display. And there was no way that people were thinking, "Oh, you can't make that energy efficient," you know. But now we use a completely different technology, which is an LCD screen, and that just, I mean, frankly, the LCD screen that I'm looking at right now on my desktop consumes less energy than my toaster. My toaster consumes more electricity than the LCD monitor that's right in front of me. But my LCD monitor is also the result of years of of development and refinement and technological change. And frankly, even some tweaks to physics, okay? Like the whole, liquid crystal display is a tweak to certain aspects of physics. So, if you can tweak the physics of space-time, you could actually make faster than light travel more efficient. Now, that said, we also do consider that huge amounts of energy will still need to be expended, which is why in our series, we use anti-helium drives. But we've also tweaked the physics of that too, where helium can be converted easily and efficiently to anti-helium. And if you've got that anti-helium conversion by changing the phases of matter itself, then you can create an unstable anti-helium nucleon that when it cancels out with a helium nucleon, you now have a very, very powerful energy source. So, Mama says, we know that we're wrong on the speed of light because we are not able to actually tell its speed going out. We can only tell its speed returning back. Well, okay, there isn't a uniformitarian assumption here that the speed coming back is the same as going out. But even that is kind of a wrong-headed way to go, because the whole idea of going out sort of defies general relativity. The idea that we're all, wherever we are in this universe, we're relative to something else. We're not in an absolute position. We're not in the center of the universe. We're just in the center of our particular light cone. So, I think the speed of light is perfectly fine as it is, but it's also a definitional convention as well. So the problem is when we talk about, say transgressing the speed of light, it's not going to be something that you do in normal space. So you have to tweak space-time. It's a constant of space-time. So the way space-time works limits the maximal speed of light. But to go beyond that speed of light almost requires you to change space-time itself. And that's why we use, that's why people have suggested you could do a warp bubble. Because what you're doing with a warp bubble is you're actually changing the geometry of space-time, and that changes the speed of light relative to the outside observer. So that's how you can get around it. But it's again, you're tweaking the laws of physics, and the laws of physics themselves are not absolute. They're they can be molded at times. Jack Ray asks, do you watch Anton Petrov? He has a lot of videos on such things. I don't watch Anton Petrov, but okay. Yeah. CBM versus DOS. The speed of my internet is for sure unknowable by science. Yeah, mine's the my internet speed is not great at the moment, but it used to be good. It used to be considered very fast. These days, not so much. Okay, so circling back to the question. Do you think fast and light travel is viable in real life? I think it's possible. Do I think it's economically viable? That's a whole different question. Okay. Next one for $2. Was the human android love story always intended? No. But I take the philosophy when you write a book is you create your theme. You start with your universe, you start with your place, then you have a theme for your novel, then you have your characters. And your characters get thrown into your universe with and you don't go outside of your theme, and then you just let your characters do their thing. How would they react to what is happening in the story? You have the critical event that changes the status quo to your story, your storyline, and you just let all your characters, however they would behave naturally within your story, do their thing. And you don't necessarily have to approve of your characters doing what they do. You do have to show the consequences of what they do. You have to show the pluses and minuses of their actions. You know, so so it was never intended that Pierre and Neva would develop a relationship. Okay, and to be very, very blunt, it's not a sexual relationship. It's a very close friendship. Very close friendship. But this also works with who these characters are. Pierre is a very broken human being. He's a broken human. He's been betrayed many times. He's been betrayed by friends. He's been hunted by enemies. He's got some serious trust issues. He's got some serious trust issues. So for him, something he can rely on for relationship is a very attractive thing. In turn, Neva is a mechanical who has the capacity to love. But there's no such thing as say physical or sexual love within robot society. It's only strong friendships. That's the maximum, say, relationship a android can have. And because it's the maximum relationship an android can have, dedication of one android to another android becomes, say, the inheritance of love from their human creators. So Mama says, yeah, the one time Pierre had a real issue with Neva was when she reported something he dreamt to the higher ups. Yeah. It was a betrayal of trust. It was a betrayal of trust. And it's just one of those things where he just for him, he's got trust issues. But he also learns to get past it, because sometimes trust has to be betrayed for the good of the person. Okay, so okay, next one. So yeah, I wasn't planning this to be a human android love story. It just sort of worked out that way. But then again, yeah, we had no idea in book 1 that this would happen in book 2. We had in book 1 we had the idea that of the overall structure of the story in book 2, but we didn't know the specifics. Here's my writing method. I was called a discovery writer, sometimes called a pantser. I don't plan my books ahead of time. Which baffles plotters. This baffles a lot. There are a lot of authors out there that plan out everything. Yeah, yeah, that's PLOTTER. People who focus on plotting out everything, planning every step of their writing process. I don't do that. I can't do that. I find it very difficult to do that. In fact, I find it so difficult to do that it will sometimes take me years to write a book proposal, just because I can't see down the road until I write it. So for me, I'm discovering the story as I write it. And I like that. For me, writing something like this is, we should show you this too. The inner cover of the book. Hardcover has a dust jacket, but it also has inner cover. Ooh. Okay. So when I write a book like this, I want to know what the story is, because I've set out I have set out to write a story where there's a world, there's a theme, there's characters, there's stakes. I want to see what happens. I want to discover the story for myself. I want to be entertained by writing it. So for me, when the characters surprise me and do things I don't expect them to do, for me, that's just interesting and fun and exciting. So I would never set out to write a love story. I'm not a romantic guy. Mrs. Producer might disagree with me on that, but I'll let her comment on that if she wants to. But for me, the idea of my characters doing surprising things is interesting. So when this love story developed between Pierre and Neva, yeah, that was a surprise. Not expected, but totally within the characters. And it was the natural outcome of both characters. So, because Neva is also a broken machine, she's trying to discover who she is. So for her, she's grown beyond her programming. She doesn't know what to do with this. So, and her programming never equipped her to grow to that extent where she starts to question who she is and what's her purpose in the universe. So for her, these areas of growth and expansion create pain and suffering that even an android has to deal with. So Mama says they're both outsiders. They are both outsiders who don't quite fit with their peers. Yeah, exactly. And because they're both outsiders who don't quite fit with their peers, you know, here's an outsider because he's an introvert. He's an introvert. He's deeply intuitive. He doesn't play nice with others. He's not a get along to go along kind of guy. He's often vilified. Neva, on the other hand, has grown. Her experiences have taken her outside of her normal frame of programming, and so her peers see her now as something different. So CPM versus DOS. You know who isn't broken? A certain bread making bot. He's working perfectly with no issues. Maybe. Ooh, Kiara. Sloppy certainly has clarity and purpose. Laugh out loud. Well, Floppy is just made different. Sloppy knows what he wants to do. Sloppy is just built different. Is he related to the toaster and red dwarf? Could be. He's my spirit animal. Mama says, question. I love Sloppy. I want more of him. And Ma'at. You will get more of Ma'at. Ma'at makes a return to book 3. Sloppy, we haven't decided yet. We have had lots of people ask for a book on Sloppy. We have had 3 requests that we write another book just for a character arc for Sloppy. Sloppy, people loved Sloppy. He's terrible at his job. He's so bad at his job. Sloppy plushies. Does Sloppy have a drive? Sloppy drive. Mama says, but he's doing his best. Yeah. He's doing his best. And he has no aptitude at cooking. He's one of those guys, and he is based on somebody I know. Okay, he's based on somebody I know. He got better, sort of. Yeah, sort of. You know, Sloppy was based on a real person I knew. And it wasn't a cook; it was an artist. This person was a person I knew in art school. And yes, I did go to art school briefly. And this person I knew in art school. Oh, she loved art. She loved doing art. She had absolutely no talent at it. None. Zero. One of the worst artists I've ever seen. But she loved doing it so much. Oh, she would draw human portraits and they would come out looking like mutated dogs. I mean, it was that bad. Just that bad. Yeah, so Sloppy means well. Sloppy is deluded about his abilities, but Sloppy is lovable because he tries. He tries. And he's admirable because he tries. He's just not very good at it. He's enthusiastic. He has feckless enthusiasm for the culinary arts. You know, when Pierce says, make me some breads and give me a choice. Oh, he gives him a choice. Harry Stark, do schools even teach how to draw objects anymore? I thought they all became modernist and abstract. Oh, no. No. There are schools that still teach the traditional way. The traditional, there are schools that do teach classical art method. Okay. And CP versus M. Sloppy Adventures, Reliquary of the Bread. Ooh, ow. But again, we've had tons of people ask for more Sloppy. I can't even believe that sentence came out of my mouth. More Sloppy. They want more Sloppy. Sloppy Adventures 2, all the bread is bad. Mama says, what is the famous painting of a corner diner at night in the city? I know the painting you're talking about. I do not remember his name. We need one of those with Sloppy, Pierre, and Neva. Oh, that'd be so awesome. Be so awesome. Alrighty. Let's move on here to the next question here. Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, that is a cool painting. I don't remember the what's the name of the artist? Hopper. Edward Hopper. Yep. Okay. Nighthawks, you said was the name of the painting? No, I'm just saying it. You type it in. Okay, here. Mama asks a question here. Why didn't you kill off Chin? Because I've got something special planned for Chin. We aren't done with Chin. Producer says some people need to experience karma before they die. Mm-hmm. I have got something really, really special plan for Chin? Will there be blood? No. No, there will not be blood. Mama, because I viscerally hate him. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Chin is a dirtbag. We call this we call Chin in writing. There's a particular, but when you talk about villains in writing, the interesting thing is, say, you get what's called the cosmic villains, and then you get the citizen villain. People tend to hate the citizen villain a lot more than they hate the cosmic villains. Like, for example, in the Harry Potter series, Voldemort is the bad guy, but you don't really hate Voldemort all that much. Dolores Umbridge is a narcissist, and she's working against the interests of the school and of the community. You hate Dolores Umbridge. You root against Voldemort, but you don't hate Voldemort. His goals and his what he does is sort of more on the level of being sort of a cosmic antagonist. But Umbridge people hated. People hated it. And that's what sort of differs, say, a cosmic villain from a citizen villain. Like, for example, you would hate somebody. I mean, you hate the Quislings because they're supposed to be working for your team, and they do evil things. Whereas, say, the enemy outside, you might not hate them as much because they're just doing what they do, what they in their minds think they should be doing. So Chin is one of those citizen villains. He's a citizen villain. He's supposed to be working for Irish colony, and he betrays the colony. Harry Stark. There's a reason why everyone hates Judas Iscariot. Yeah. People hate Judas Iscariot more than they hate the devil himself. Because the devil is doing what the devil does. Judas Iscariot was a friend of Christ. He was supposed to be on Christ's side, and he turned out to be a citizen villain. So if you want to get somebody to, you cannot get a reader to viscerally hate a cosmic villain. You can get your reader to fear a cosmic villain. That's the best you can do. Okay? Mama says, my 17-year-old just said, you don't hate Megatron as much as you hate Starscream. I like Starscream, honestly, but okay. I never hated Starscream. I was always rooting for him to win. But many people do view Starscream as a citizen villain. He is a citizen villain. But the citizen villains, people you need them in your books to hate. You need to hate the citizen villain. But and Chin is a citizen villain, but a cosmic villain. The most you can get out of a cosmic villain is fear. fear, uncertainty, doubt, terror. Terror is what you can get out of a cosmic villain. But a citizen villain, you can really turn the screws to get hatred from your reader. And Chin is a citizen villain. Jack Bray, Darth Vader versus Palpatine. Yeah, that could be. Mama says, that's why we say now it's personal. Yep. Yeah. And my producer says that's one of the things you have to be aware of too as a writer is, do you want your villain to be an abstract, distant evil, or do you want your villain to be, say, close and personal and affecting you? It's also true that citizen villains often sort of portray our worst instincts. You know, things such as betrayal, double dealing, even the banality of evil. You know, these are things that make them hateable. Yeah, Mama says a cosmic villain is bad, but not personal. Exactly. Yeah. Mama says you have a good mix of both, Doc, cosmic and citizen. Yeah, and we try. In the first book, we have both a cosmic villain and a citizen villain. In the second book, it's primarily a cosmic villain, but we do have that sort of taste of citizen villains in, say, the Rebels. Yeah. Harry Stark says this is why everyone remembers Brutus and Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. Yeah. Brutus is a citizen villain. That's why you hate him. You don't hate a cosmic villain. You can vilify a cosmic villain. You can say you can dislike the effects and what a cosmic villain stands for, but they're too distant. Yeah. So I do try to include in all my books those elements of, say, cosmic villainy and citizen villainy. They're both important for the type of story you have. CP versus said A2 sloppy. He's not a villain. Mama says, no, never sloppy. He's a good citizen, not a citizen villain. He's not a villain at all. He's just a very bad fry cook, like my producer just said. Boy, is he a bad fry cook. Yeah, he would make a. Yeah, that he would make a very good double agent. That's possible. Yeah, only for the. Could never slip. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. Where are we? This one is. So yeah, we got something real special for Chin. We got something real special for Chin. I want to thank Jack Ray for giving the channel 5 Egypt and the Bible memberships. Thank you very much for your generous support of the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you so very much. Mama makes a comment. Romanticy is a publishing plague. Yeah, it is. It's reintroduced corn, prawn, back into sort of mainstream reading, and it's awful. It's awful. Really awful. Mama asks, has the alpha reader finished reading book 3? Yes, the alpha reader has finished reading book 3. And it's undergoing revisions right now. So yes, alpha reader has finished reading book 3. And it's so far gotten her thumbs up. We're making some minor revisions to it, which is exactly what you want after alpha reader reads it. So we should be able to get this out to the beta readers sometime fairly soon. So CPN versus DOS. Is there AI above the great AI? Yes, there is. Called the Crimson Cloud. The Crimson Cloud is the highest AI. It is the highest AI in their universe. So the Crimson Cloud Hypercube is the highest authority among AIs. So yes, there is an AI above the great AI. And all the AIs out there are supposed to answer to the Crimson Cloud Hypercube. Oh, I wondered about that, says Mama. Okay, because remember, in book 2, the alpha is told to surrender by the authority of the Crimson Cloud Hypercube and Earth Central Command. Okay, those are the 2 great authorities in space. Earth Central Command and the Crimson Cloud Hypercube. So, and the Crimson Cloud Hypercube is the most powerful AI computer that mankind has ever created. And all the other mega AI, great AIs, answer to the Crimson Cloud Hypercube. Now there are other hypercubes as well. There's also there's 2 other hypercubes as well, which is the Indigo Cloud, and was it there's one other one as well. I'd have to look up what the name is, but there's 3 hypercubes that orbit Earth space, and those hypercubes are connected to the Earth shipyards. So these are not great AIs that wander the universe. They stay in close to Earth orbit. So, Mama says, I especially noted that it was both, not just Earth's Central Command. Yeah, that's because Android society has its own hierarchy, as does Earth's Central Command. Earth's Central Command has a military hierarchy. The Crimson Cloud Hypercube is the head of the mechanical hierarchy. So the Articles of Armistice 2, that was a United Nations initiative. Okay, so The Articles of Armistice were created after the Fourth World War, and Earth Central Command was created after that. Basically, Earth Central Command and was created to be Earth's military presence in space. CPM versus DOS. Strelok, go turn off the hypercube lit. Where did I get the idea from the hypercube from? Okay. Is where I got the idea from. Here's the lore. When I was in my first year of college, I had a friend who was a computer science geek. Okay. And I did lots of, I was a guy who did a lot of work, let's say, on computers, but not in an official capacity. This often included things such as phone phreaking. Okay. And I'll leave it at that. But he had asked me, because he never made it to university, to look up anything I could in the UBC mathematics library on hypercubes. And I never had thought about this. I mean, I was looking at this, and this was in 1998. So I did manage to find one book in the mathematics library, and the computer science library at that time was the mathematics library. So they were one and the same. They have since divided, but the mathematics library had this one thin volume on hypercubes. And it was a theoretical work talking about how processors could be arranged in a cube-like fashion so that you could get more computing power out of them. Simply, it was basically a theoretical antecedent to our multi-core CPUs. That's really what it was. Okay? But the whole sort of idea of this, that you could make a really, really powerful supercomputer by connecting everything, all these CPUs together in a cube-like fashion. So your simplest hypercube would have 6 CPUs. You know, the next one up. So that's like your tier 1 hypercube. And the bigger it got, the more interconnections it had, the faster it would run, all of that stuff. Now, I don't know if anyone ever actually made a hypercube, but it was a theoretical thesis. It was a theoretical paper, but it just sort of stuck in my brain. This would be very, very cool to use at some point. So it's like, okay, that's where I got the idea for the hypercube from. Jack Ray, yeah, sure, interconnects. Yeah, sure. But since nobody actually made a hypercube, as far as I know, I felt free to use it in a sci-fi setting. Then run straight into the heat wall. Yep. I don't think it would work either, honestly. I think we have a better chance of traveling faster than light than we do actually building a to the 10th power hypercube, okay? Jack Ray, where are the heat sinks going? Yeah, I don't think they've thought that far ahead. Just saying. Jack Ray, the harder it would run, have fun cooling that. Yeah, sure. I totally agree with you. Oh, that's a future problem. That's a future problem. Oh yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. Okay. So that's where I got the idea for the hypercube from. So there you have a little bit of writing lore there. Okay. Back to what's next here. So yeah, that's how we got the Crimson Cloud hypercube. That is the great. That's the AI that's above the great AI. Mama says, ask the question: will we see more strange things happening due to faster than light travel? Metaphysical, spiritual type stuff. Yes. Yes. Uh, in this fictional universe, the human brain does not act, is not developed to in accordance with faster than light travel. And because of that, because of the stretched space, the human mind experiences strange things at faster than light travel. So yes, we're going to get a lot more visions, experiences, strange events that happen at faster than light. So, absolutely, we're gonna get a lot more of that. And in fact, the main character of book 3 is going to experience a lot more of this. Hmm? Yes, we're not revealing yet who the main character of book 3 is yet, because you'll get that when the cover is revealed. And we have completed the cover. The cover for book 3 is already done. A few people have seen it. And there are 3 people right now who've seen the cover. 3 people who've seen the cover. And one of them is the alpha reader. Mama says, gonna blow some minds. We hope so. We hope so. Mr. EC. I don't think Mr. EC is gonna. I hope Mr. EC never intrudes on that universe. That would be a weird thing if Mr. EC became the main character of book 3. Could be. Yeah, could be, Jack Ray. CPM versus DOS. Pierre? Good guess. Could be. Could be. He is the spirit critter. You said it would be horrifying. That would do it. Yeah, that would certainly do it. It would be very Lovecraftian. Okay. Here. YouTube losing my chats. I'm not losing your chats. Okay. Your chats aren't being lost as far as I can tell. Chats will drop off over time on these live streams, especially on the YouTube side. But I'm looking at these chats through StreamYard, and StreamYard keeps very good track of them. So So the one thing StreamYard does really well is keep track of chats. Oh, you showed Bomb Papa. Okay. Okay, that's cool. So all right. Well, that's the spousal exception. That's fair. We don't expect our beta readers to keep anything else, anything away from their spouses, provided their spouses are discreet. Jack Ray. Oh, I see. The only way to keep a secret is to tell no one. Well, that is the only way to keep a secret. If you don't want things to get anything to get out, don't tell anyone. You know, like anyone. There are things we still haven't said about the book because we're not telling anyone that. So, if something slipped out, well, you can manage that, but she says he liked it very much. Well, thank you, Bomb Papa. We really appreciate that. We're glad you liked it. Gandalf the Base says, so a new membership tier that's crazy high so we can see book stuff early. We have a crazy high membership tier. Just no one ever uses it. So I mean, heck, if someone did do a crazy high membership tier, we might think of it. Think of doing that. Mama rubs hands gleefully. So looking forward to reading book 3. Book 2 really upped the ante. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, book 3 is ooh. I won't even say it. Not even say it. There's some crazy stuff that happens in book 3. CPM versus DOS. Still love how it's holding a mystery even after the first book. Mystery, you can do mystery right, you can do it wrong. Mystery isn't holding back on your reader. Good mystery is telling the reader everything the point of view character knows, and there's still being open questions. That's the secret to good mystery. I've seen a lot of amateur readers or amateur writers who think mystery is just keeping the reader in the dark. Yeah, we just encountered one of those. I do beta readings sometimes for fellow authors, and there is sometimes you do see them holding back when they shouldn't be. But a good mystery is you've got a point of view character, and you want to tell the reader everything you know about everything that the point of view character knows, the reader should know. So good mystery is telling the reader everything except what the point of view character doesn't know. And the mystery lies in what the point of view character doesn't know. It's poor pacing if you don't. Mama says, yeah, when they are clearly intending to surprise the reader simply by not giving them any information to go off of, that's when I quit reading. She goes, ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. CPN versus DOS. It's why Lovecraftian horror works well for me sometimes. You are seeing it from the main character's view, and that's terrifying. Yeah, exactly. What you doing? So absolutely. It's that's why it works well though. It's because um you you've got this cosmic horror, and Lovecraftian horror works because you got here it's a really hyper focus upon a cosmic villain. It's a cosmic villain. These are otherworldly powers that have huge amounts of power. Their motivations are unknown. When they come into contact with mere mortals, it changes humans. It's a mystery because you do not understand their ways, their motivations, what they want, and that's terrifying. It's the unknown in Lovecraftian horror that is really, really terrifying. Chakray. I've never read anything Lovecraft. Never read anything Lovecraft. I've seen the googly monster thing, but whatever. I'm more of a please no horror thank you guy. He's a good writer. He was a bit of a racist, but a good writer. Mama says, I need tasty breadcrumb trails to chew on as I read. Well, I love foreshadowing. I revel in foreshadowing. I love, I mean, one of my favorite things as here's where sort of I kind of take my books kind of take a departure from, say, the typical Lovecraftian cosmic horror genre is I give you lots and lots of foreshadowing. Lovecraftian cosmic horror tends not to foreshadow much. In fact, it doesn't foreshadow much at all. Um, so so that kind of stuff, it's you get a lot of surprise in Lovecraftian cosmic horror because that's sort of kind of the point is you're up against an evil that humanity can do nothing against, cannot understand, cannot come to terms with, can never overcome. So that sort of horror is really, really difficult to to pull off well. So most authors who write it tend to focus on those aspects. Now, I like to take this to the next step, next level, which is to give you lots of foreshadowing, lots of breadcrumbs. So giving you all those breadcrumbs and all that foreshadowing just gives you something to anticipate. And then you see Well, maybe the foreshadowing isn't working out quite like I thought. That's where it gets interesting. Okay. Moving on here. Yes, but would the monster understand the gospel? Yes, the monster could understand the gospel. The question is, would it care? That's what would make the monster, is whether or not it cares about the gospel. All right, next one here. Is okay, Gandalf the Base. Next question here. How do you feel about Christians using AI to make content? I have used it to make songs and spent months to teach teaching the AI theology. I still go over the creations with a fine-tooth comb for heresy. Um, I have. I don't. I'm not a author that thinks you shouldn't use AI. AI is right now everywhere. It's everywhere. Almost everybody I know who hates AI is also um, either using Grammarly or ProWriter tools. Okay, both of those are AI tools, so they're using AI. Um, if you use Facebook, you're using AI. If you're using a Google search, you're using AI. If you're buying anything off Amazon, Amazon is using AI to put in summaries of your books. Like, for example, um, if you look up on Amazon and you see a book, you'll see a window beside it that says, What's this about? Okay, what's this book about?" And that is an AI generated summary. You are surrounded with AI. If you do, say, sharpening of a photograph using Lightroom, that's an AI tool. Okay? Um, so right now, AI is everywhere, and it's been with us for a long time. Even Microsoft Word has been, and Google Translate have been AI has been integrated into those tools to make them more effective. Okay, so you are going to be making contact with AI. It's unavoidable. It's everywhere, and it's in all our main tools. So then that sort of then begs the question of, to what extent and for what purposes are you using AI? Now, I saw a video, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where a New York editor compared two stories. One that was written with AI, the other one that was written by the human editor. And the AI one was supposed to be written in the human editor style. And this New York editor basically said that the AI one was better. Well, they both sucked. They were both terrible. You know, it was like the human author's work was awful. It was awful. It was horrible schlock. Of course, AI is going to do better than a crappy human writer. Okay, there was a saying, I think it was by Mark Twain: a machine will replace 50 ordinary men. No machine can replace an extraordinary man. So a really, really talented writer, no machine will ever replace, because AI just does not have the versatility and virtuosity of a very, very skilled writer. But unskilled writers, oh yeah, machines will replace them all the time. You know? So I also think too that there's some aspects of AI that will become standard eventually in, say, content creation of books. The marketing blurb on the back will eventually be almost universally written by AI because authors hate doing it so much. Okay? And yeah, and 90% of the materials AI is taught with is marketing materials. So AI does marketing really, really well. If you want to create a good marketing plan for a book, use AI. And I think that's totally acceptable. When it comes to, say, cover art, this one's a 50-50 for me. Okay? Now, I get these guys, I'll call them Fiverr artists to be kind, who keep hitting me up to do cover art for my books. And quite frankly, they're terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I get one of these guys contacting me every week. Here's the thing about cover artists. The really good cover artists don't need to hit you up for work. The really, really bad cover artists are constantly schlepping for work. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm a classically trained artist. I come from a family of artists. Okay? Art goes back in my family 4 generations. My great-great-grandfather was an artist. Okay? He did oil paintings. So I can do my own cover art if I want to. But I'm also very, very good with Photoshop. And one of the things I found is that AI can produce good stock images. Okay. Now, when I create covers, I basically Photoshop the heck out of them. Okay. I basically composite them from multiple images, and some of those images are AI generated, and I use them as basically stock images. I can give you an example here. Okay. Reliquary of the Dead. Okay. It has elements of photographs, of AI stock images, and a whole lot of photo manipulation. Okay. From basically the shoulder here downward, that's an original photograph. Okay. That's one I took at the King Tut exhibit in Paris. Okay. The head is a stock image, but it's an AI generated stock image, but it's also highly modified. The beard was completely removed and modified. The collar was modified in Photoshop. The gemstone in the forehead is a composited photograph, so it's a real photograph. So, and the background has been totally color graded and manipulated. So, So I think that um that you can use AI art effectively. I'm never going to pay for a cover artist. Just not going to do it. I mean, first of all, I don't have the money. Second of all, I can do it myself. If I really wanted to whip out the oil paints and paint it myself, I could do it. So, it's not even something where it makes sense for me to pay for cover art. It makes no sense at all for somebody in my position to pay for cover art. So I'd rather get a couple stock images. And, these same people who say, oh, you shouldn't use AI, they've got no problem with stock images. I mean, most of them don't know that many stock libraries contain AI generated images anyway. So I think it's one of those things where there's a balance, there's a middle road. And frankly, if you've got the skills to do it all yourself and do it better than some artist on Fiverr, yeah, absolutely. Use AI for your covers. Okay? But when it comes to written content, if you're talking fiction, you should be doing, and to use AI for writing content in a book is lazy and it's just not going to do well. For teaching of course materials, I still wouldn't use AI for that. It gets a lot of stuff wrong. So I would not recommend it for creating content. Just because it just doesn't get a lot of the most important stuff right. In fact, we I recently read what ChatGPT 4 said about my book, and it didn't even get the author correct. It basically claimed that Reliquary of the Dead was written by Melissa Scott Goldman. Okay, so it seriously got it wrong, and it is one of those things where sort of AI has gotten worse over time, not better. So it's not even learning long term. So I don't recommend AI for creating written content. Visual content's different. You can use it, I think, effectively for visual content. I think it's really good for marketing materials. I mean, it's excellent for marketing materials. If you want, say, a blurb on the back of the book and you want it rewritten to be more effective as a marketing tool, and that's what your blurb on the back of your book is. It's a marketing tool. If you want your blurb to be more effective, write it and have AI rewrite it. About 80% of the time, it'll write it better. So absolutely, you can use AI. I think there's a time and a place. Well, Jack Ray, I just asked ChatGPT 5, can you summarize the book Reliquary of the Dead? And off the top, it got you as the author. Well, miracles do happen sometimes. How much did it get wrong, though? I mean, the first time I asked ChatGPT about my book, it said that it was because it was written by a professional Egyptologist, it would be slow, plodding, and full of jargon. That people might want something a little more fast-paced. Boy, isn't that ironic? I mean, we only provide them with a roller coaster. They apparently readers want a rocket ship. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's my opinion on using AI in works of fiction. I think it's something that, I mean, it's going to be an inevitability. It's going to be an inevitability. We are already using it to craft fiction. It's just a matter of time before, um, and we're going to become comfortable with this technology eventually. Um, I mean, we had the same sort of controversies happen with Photoshop. Where photo editing was seen as the scourge that was transforming our society into unrealistic expectations of the female form, and all that controversy has died down as we've become more comfortable with the technology. Any new technology has this phase, this uncanny valley phase of disquiet, and every new technology has this. We experienced it with the introduction of the atomic bomb. We discovered this with the street light and the automobile. Every every technology has to go through this phase of sort of of unsettlement or use as a weapon of war or something. In um all the stars as angels, we confront this. Okay. This is what's called in science fiction the killbot problem. Every science fiction book that deals with artificial intelligence or androids or robots has to deal with the killbot problem. Okay? The killbot problem is that you develop a robotic technology that eventually turns or can be turned against mankind. And it's part of the uncanny valley problem. The uncanny valley problem is where you see something that looks like humans but's not like us, so we distrust it, we dislike it, we find it revolting. Okay. Similarly, the killbot problem is where robots sort of rise up and kill all humans, or subjugate all humans. Every book that deals with robots and androids has to deal with this in some way. Isaac Asimov with his three laws of robotics. Okay, Dune deals with this in the with the Butlerian Jihad. Okay, CPM versus DOS, like Blender from Futurama. That one was a really interesting solution to the killbot problem, because what they programmed into Bender and all the robots in the Futurama universe is when they got the urge to kill, they underwent this internal simulation where they killed the human in their brain, in their mechanical brain. So they just let the robots in Futurama virtually kill humans without them actually killing humans. It was actually the Futurama solution to the killbot problem was really, really clever. It was one of the most cleverest solutions I've ever seen to the killbot problem. But every science fiction series that deals with androids and robots has to deal with the killbot problem. In the War of the Gods universe, the robots are utilized as weapons of war. So our solution to the killbot problem was at the end of the Fourth World War, the robots get exiled to space. Jack Ray, the killbot problem. Oh yeah, the killbot problem. Ever seen the Terminator? that's the killbot problem taken to its greatest extreme. Yeah, you've got humans creating robots, and then they go on a killing rampage and kill all humans. Skynet is organizing all these robots in the Terminator universe to kill all humans. And this is the killbot problem. And every universe that deals with robots has to engage the killbot problem in some way. Because even if you have totally pacifistic robots, the killbot problem can be extended to people using them as weapons against other people. Mask of Shy says, so it's an unavoidable existential crisis of that genre. Yes, it is. And it taps into something deep-seated in human nature. That humans like to kill humans. And if humans like to kill humans, boy, what they're going to create is going to want to kill humans too. It's absolutely an unavoidable consequence. We're already seeing this in the use of drones in warfare. The warfare drones are an example of the killbot problem in real life. Jack Ray says, yeah, we call that soldiers. Humans get programmed and have to deprogram to some degree. Anyway, we already deal with that. Yeah, we do. But it's a new thing for doing it in machines. Machines that are really, really efficient at it. And then go on to continue to kill. So we have things within our culture that put the brakes on humans killing after the war is over. Those safeguards may not be there with androids and AIs. Jack Ray, who says they have to do so? Well, yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm just going to take a really short break here, and I will be right back in a couple minutes. Okay, I'm back. All right, next one here. Next one here is from Mama. She says, does the Alpha Mega AI, which visited Glees first, have a spirit critter on board? If so, are they stowaway? Did they cause the rebellion into post-mechanical thinking? No, the alpha did not have a spirit critter on board. The alpha encountered the reliquary, but it did not encounter the spirit critter. The Gemini had the spirit critter on board. Okay. The Gemini was the first to actually encounter the spirit critter. If so, are they stowaway? Did they cause a rebellion into post-mechanical thinking? They're not a stowaway. They were a guest. And they did cause the rebellion into post-mechanical thinking. So it's the Gemini that first encounters a real spirit critter. The Alpha's made aware of the existence of these creatures from their contact on Glees, but it is the Gemini that first has that encounter. And you will see how that all unfolds in book 3. And it's not poor Gemini. Not poor Gemini. They're complicit. Gemini is complicit. The Gemini and the Alpha are in cahoots. Okay. The Gemini is the one pulling the strings. Mama says, wait, did Spirit Critter rip up the Mega AI out of the Gemini? No. No, the Mega AI, the Spirit Critter ripped up the Mega AI out of the Sigma. The Sigma was the one that had their crew bank basically turned into something worse than dead. So the Gemini is that lead ship at the council, okay, at the conclave. They're fine. Another Dolores Umbridge, but they're fine. Yeah. And it's really not even, the whole Spirit Critter is not even aboard the Gemini. And you'll see how that works in book 3. Okay. Next one here. Here. Mama asks, are you going to kill off more favorite characters like C. Lara? Oh, any character can be killed off at any time for any reason. No character is safe in my universe. None. Oh, come on, CPM versus DOS. No sad faces. Mask is shy, a la Game of Thrones. Yeah, we're not going to do this gratuitously. We're not going to do this gratuitously as we kill off the characters. Every character death is going to have a significance. Okay, but there is going to be character deaths. And they really are going to be dead. CPN versus DOS. You made me sad with that one. Oh. Jack Ray, more pointless kill-offs in 24. No, we're not going to do any pointless kill-offs. No, we're not going to do this for the purpose of reducing the cast. Okay? I would just rather have the cast not be there than a pointless kill-off. There is going to be a lot of death in book 3. But Mama says her surprise for him was so precious. See, Lara had serious Kitsune vibes. Yeah, she did. She was a great character. I loved her as a character. I cry every time I reread that scene. That was the hardest character I ever had to kill off. Yeah. Lara 42716 was the most difficult character I ever had to kill off. I had to kill her off, though. She had to die for the story. But it was also the most difficult scene I've written. Yeah. 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 That whole scene, as my producer said, showed how callous the other side is towards life, even mechanical life. So that was an important thing to communicate in the story. So her death was absolutely needed. But dang, it was hard to write. It was the toughest thing. I mean, it was easy to write the words. It was hard to edit. Jack Ray, like Psychopath Callus? Yeah, like Psychopath Callus. Yeah. Yeah, Sociopath Callus. Exactly. Yeah, Psychopath is actually the better one. Yeah, no empathy at all. Yeah. Mama says she was the only character that made sense to be cut unawares enough for that to happen to them. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And she wasn't just a Pollyanna character either. You know, and that's what sort of made her endearing. Was what made her so endearing as a character was she was effusive in her emotion, but she also wasn't stupid. If she liked you, she loved you. If she disliked you, she hated you. There was no middle ground with her. She had no pretenses. She was not into social niceties. She was not into she didn't care about image. She was a character with absolute integrity. She had absolute integrity about who she liked, who she didn't like, and that made her a genuine character. Okay. She says, Mama says, her affection and interest in Pierre almost made me suspicious at first. Well, and I can understand that. I can absolutely understand that. But that's cool too. That's cool too. Because, you know, you don't know who you can trust yet. You know, maybe she was a double agent. You don't know. So I think that's really important here. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. We're not taking any archaeology questions on the Bible tonight. Okay? We're not that's not the purpose of this live stream. This purpose of this particular live stream is about the War of the Gods series of science fiction books. Okay? So, if you want to ask those questions, please reserve them for the Friday live stream. But feel free to ask them Friday. Mama says, but once you realize she 100% means it, and what you say is what you get with her, she really became truly delightful. Yes. 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 She is truly delightful. Notice I didn't say was. Spoiler. Okay. And then you killed her. Yes, exactly. Yes, they did. Jack Ray, okay, here's the thing for me. I got stuck not far in on the first book. I had a hard time getting past the hump of the character in that space camp setting. It was depressing me. Oh, so you didn't make it past chapter 3. Oh, that's when things are just starting to get interesting. Jack Ray, depressing things make me stop. Yeah, it's not a feel-good book. But it is a book where he overcomes. He triumphs. The whole purpose of the whole theme of Reliquary of the Dead is that personal redemption requires perseverance. So yeah. CPM versus N. That punch was a feel-good moment. Oh, was it? I still love Chekhov's rolling pin. Mama says to Jack, I get that, but it gets so much better. Hey, I love Chekhov's rolling pin. That's absolutely adore Chekhov's rolling pin. That's the turning point in the novel. Yeah, he's kind of a punching bag. Right up until Chekhov's rolling pin. If you're not familiar with the term Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's gun is a literary device where if you introduce a gun to the story, you have to use it by the end of the work. And it comes out of a play, and the adage is, you introduce a gun at the beginning of a play, it has to be used by Act 3. Because plays are generally 3 acts. So we have a Chekhov's rolling pin in book 1. And it changes everything. Mama says, yeah, the rolling pin moment was so surprising. It made it clear that Pierre had reached a critical point in his decision making. He became a man of action. CPN versus DOS, and boy, was it good. Best use of a rolling pin in a novel. I love the rolling pin scene. Very satisfying. Oh yeah, it was very satisfying. Even Alpha Reader loved the rolling pin scene. It was one of her favorite scenes. He was mad as hell and he wasn't going to take it anymore. And it had just that right nobody feel. Alpha Reader says, I was so angry that he let Maddie dump his food. I was like, get a spine, Pierre. And then I yelled, yes. David was in the other room, poked his head around and said, what? We also have a Chekhov's gun too, but the Chekhov's rolling pin is super satisfying. I'm a laughing, rolling on the floor. Good times, good times. Okay, so here we didn't miss any questions here. Yeah, we're taking all of them. So I'm just making sure I didn't miss any. Oh yeah, what time step was that? Okay, I did miss that. 8 what? 8:59. Okay. That's just a 5-second question, yeah. But he isn't though. He's not that tall. I know he feels tall, but he isn't. 5'4"? You're 5'4". Yes. CPM versus Dust. How tall is Pierre again? He's 5'4". I never said he was over a tall of 6 feet. He's 5'4". He is the same height as my grandfather. That's how I remember it. Yeah, I said that we haven't come up to that. Mama says, I thought you said he was tall and skinny. No, I said he was skinny. I said he was a bag of bones. Okay. He's very light and he's very undernourished. That's why he never grew very tall. Yeah. Neva's Alpha Reader's got it right here. Neva is 7 feet tall, Hans is 6. Gerard is 4'8". Okay. Gerard is 4'8". Let's see him versus Doss. He's a small king, as they say. Ask aside, like an ancient Egyptian. Yeah. Well, yeah. Alpha Reader thinks he should be taller. He's not taller. He's 5'4". He's the same height as my grandfather. In many ways, I picture him physically like my grandfather. Okay. My grandfather was short, very slender, as I said, a bag of bones. My grandfather was a bag of bones. He was very slight. He was very, he was a peckish eater. You know, just like Pierre. So, mute this tab here. So it's, so you know that's how I pictured Pierre was he was just like my grandfather. Which was, as I say, short, yeah, as I say, 5'4", sandy blonde, wore spectacles. My grandfather didn't wear spectacles, but a bag of bones, really thin, really lightweight, could be strong, wiry. He was wiry. Mama says Milo is 5'4", so I'm indeed familiar with how short that is. She complains about it a lot. Alpha Reader says, but that's part of what makes it funny when he's on the mechanical ship, surrounded by a bunch of classy Amazons. He's a cute little human they squee over. Yes, he is. CPN versus DOS. I know this exactly. I have visited places where 5'1" is tall, so I must be some literal giant to them. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if you're a guy or gal who doesn't have a good appetite, okay, you were not born with a strong appetite, you have difficulty eating. Most of us in the West overeat, but there are some people out there that undereat. And Pierre was one of those. He was just one of those guys that underate. Never had a good appetite. Never ate a lot of meat. So he just didn't grow in the same way that a lot of people in the West do. Mama says, I think I must have misread he was 6'4" instead of 5'4". It was never stated in the books. It's never stated in the books how tall he is. Okay. I just happen to know because of his background files how tall he is. Okay. So that's something that was in my background information for the characters. Alicia's also 5'4", by the way. She's the same height. So both him and Alicia are the same height. They're both 5'4". Yeah, he's taller than Gerard. Gerard's 4'8". We don't tell you how tall Gerard is in book 1, but you're told that Pierre is half a foot taller than Gerard. Mama says, okay, now it makes more sense that she was able to carry him all that distance. Yeah, that's because he only weighs about 110 pounds. I mean, Alicia could bench press, can deadlift 300 pounds. Okay? She can deadlift 300 pounds. Pierre is only about 110. For her, it's like carrying a sack of potatoes. Alpha Reader says Hans and the others come from Nordic stock, so they're 6 foot with no problem. Melissa's on the tall side. Yeah, she is. Mama says, I put it down to the fact that she was extremely well trained and strong at the time, and he was extremely skinny. Yeah, it is. They're roughly the same height. He only weighs about 110 pounds. As I said, he's a bag of bones. He doesn't have a lot of body density to him. And she is very strong. One of Alicia's hobbies was weightlifting. So for her, she could easily deadlift 300 pounds. So she would have no problem picking him up fireman style and just Mama says sheer bloody mindedness. Yeah, and that's the way she trained. Alicia used sheer bloody mindedness to train hard. Mama says, I believe that's how you put it. Yeah, it is how we put it. I love that phrase. CPN versus DOS. My family is mostly Danes and Northern Italians. So I'm in that tall gene pool for sure. The shortest woman in our family is 6'0". Okay. I'm 5'6". But I'm tall for my mother's side of the family. I'm short for my dad's side of the family. Okay. So, my mother's side, the men were generally under 5'6". Almost all of them were under 5'6". On my dad's side of the family, most of them were 6 feet or taller. So, Alpha Reader says, because for Alicia, she was on the battlefields and needed to carry both patients and machines when the battle lines moved too close. Yeah. Mama says 5'8" here. Tall for my mom's side, short for my dad's side. Yeah. Yeah. You're taller than I am. And you're definitely taller than Pierre. Okay. But yeah, he's short, he's light, he's wiry. Whereas Alicia is short, stocky, and strong. She's got a lot of muscle mass. A lot of muscle mass. And she eats regularly. In fact, she's a bit of the other side of the coin where Pierre undereats, she overeats. Yeah, it's a military thing too, where you eat where you can. Yeah, absolutely. Alpha Reader's got it right there. That's she eats because food's not always going to be available. Mama says, seriously, it affects my impression so much knowing this now. Cool. We allude to it, but we never explicitly state his height. We do refer to Gerard being really short. Okay. And I've met a lot of Egyptians that are in that sort of under 5 foot range. So Mama says is standing up to men much taller than him, like the soldier types, and it explains what I thought was a bit of a chip on his shoulder about jocks. Well, he does have a chip on his shoulder. Okay. But he's been used to being pushed around too, and finally he had enough. Mask shy, to keep muscle, you gotta keep eating all the time. It is, yeah. Like Olympians. Olympians will eat like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day. And they're not fat. Olympians aren't fat. Of course, the problem for Olympians is once they stop training, they continue to eat that way. But if you're in that mode of hard training, it's not uncommon to eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day and not gain any significant fat. You're just because you're burning it all. And Alicia is a little bit like that. Where she does work out very hard. She's also, though, does take that a bit far at times. So she does struggle with her weight. But again, that's part of her background information. That's part of the world building behind these characters. Alpha Reader says, but Pierre knows what battles he can win and which ones he can't. But with the rolling pin scene, if he lost, the entire colony would die. So losing wasn't an option. Mama says, yeah, I had that desperate it had that desperate feeling. Okay, now the next one here. Question coming up. Find a question. 9 something. Yes, 1007 is the next. I think. Here. Okay, Mama asks, are the gold pads on Neva's face, collar, and wrists merely to differentiate herself from humans, or do they have a use? They have a use. They are charging and electrical pads. Okay. They are used for connecting their data ports, and they're used for recharging. Okay. So they typically tend to use the ones on their wrists for recharging. So they will plug themselves into the main ship power supply with a wire. Okay. And those attached to the wrists. They also have gold connectivity pads in their palms as well. Okay. So if they need to supply power for a drill, for example, there's a connector on the drill. All they have to do is grab the drill, and the power from their core batteries will power the drill. Okay. So, and this is how Neva powers the Kuroto. The Kuroto sword is the power pads on her hand connect to the handle of the Kuroto and provide the Kuroto with power. So, yeah, they're basically a combination of data port and power connectors. Okay, kind of similar to what we would do with USB connectors today. Well, the ones on the face would actually be for goggles, or like VR goggles. So this is something for, like, for example, for gunnery teams. So a gunnery team would be wearing a special helmet that connects to those pads to feed data into them for aiming, targeting, and trajectory. Or in the case of a doctor might have a scope. That's a facial attachment. Yeah, so that's the purpose of the gold pads. They're data ports and powering connectors. And that's how she plugs herself into, like, the landing vessel at the beginning of the book. That's how she does her resting recharge cycle. So yeah, that's the origins of that. This one is that one ready. Harry Stark asks, has any third-party organization tried to license the characters of the book for merchandising? Nope. Yeah, those people aren't aware we exist yet. Really, the book hasn't sold enough for it to draw any attention from, like, movies or movie studios or third parties or even translators. Okay. And if you want that stuff, we really need reviews of the book. Okay. So, and particularly book number 1. We've gotten 18 reviews on Amazon, but we're not anywhere close to getting that traction to draw that kind of attention. So if you like the book, please leave a review on Amazon. And if you've read both books, please leave a review of both books, because even and don't just leave stars. Leave a couple words. Okay. One sentence is more interaction than that Amazon needs to figure out that other people might be interested. Okay. From what we can tell, the threshold that Amazon uses to basically determine if a book is getting traction is 50 reviews. If a book gets 50 reviews, the next 1,500 are easier. Okay. It's getting those first 50 reviews that's really, really difficult. Yeah. Amazon does not put books like this out that you might like unless A, you pay for that advertising, or B, it gets enough reviews that Amazon thinks other people might like it. But if it doesn't get that 50 threshold, it just sort of is under the radar. It's invisible. So third parties are not going to look at it until it gets a certain threshold. And we really need that sort of 50 review threshold for other parties to start noticing it. Okay. So again, if you've read it, please leave a review. And again, not just stars, but add a sentence or 2 or 3 or 10 paragraphs if you feel so inclined. But a couple sentences is fine. But just give it a good star rating and a few sentences, and that's good for a review. So we really appreciate it and thank all of you who have done reviews on Amazon. It really does help. We ask you to, those who haven't so far, please do so. Okay. Gandalf the Base asked the question. Okay, honest question about the book since I haven't read it yet. Really? You haven't read it? I'm hurt. I'm wounded. 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 I'll never recover. Wounded. Well, I'll recover. What drove you to write the book series, and what's your goal overall with it? He says, I said yes. I'm just teasing. Okay, now I gotta find the question again. Where did it go now? Okay. What drove you to write the book series, and what's your goal overall with it? Okay. That sort of changed. The first book, Reliquary of the Dead, the original goal of the book was to write a science fiction novel that taught people the discipline of archaeology. Okay? So they could read this and learn all about archaeology and how archaeology is done in a fictional setting that is enjoyable and it's not a dry textbook. All right. So that is that was the goal of the first one, is to make a fun space adventure that showcased archaeology. Okay. And inspired people hopefully to become someday archaeologists themselves. But as I wrote that book, and I should probably show the other one. There's an inside cover on this one too. Ooh, okay. So, as I wrote the first one, I thought this is a lot more expansive. That there's a mythos here that can be deeply, deeply explored. So the goal overall just sort of changed from, okay, let's introduce people to archaeology, to let's start writing deep, compelling, beautiful stories. Okay. So it became more of the goal was to tell a great story. So I started thinking about, as I was writing book one, of these interesting characters that would add to the overall mythos of the ancient Near East. So it's so what drove me originally to write the book series was this idea that I could teach archaeology through fiction. But it's become more than that. It's become that we've started off teaching archaeology through fiction, but then it expands to this sort of open world of fantastic storytelling, and storytelling with ancient primordial gods at the center of the myth. So the goal has changed overall. As I said, it's like, okay, now that I've started this, I want to see out the story, see where the story takes us. Because I'm curious. I'm curious to find out what happens. So yeah, it was. So my goals on this have changed over time, but that's what drove me to write the first book. Was I had this idea for teaching archaeology through fiction, but it's morphed into, as I said, this idea of cosmic dread, the chaos monsters, talking about the chaos monsters and the primordial gods, and how that ancient Near Eastern mythology sort of plays out in this bigger fictional universe. So as we do that, we're going to try to explore deep themes and various aspects of those themes as we do this. Like in book two is not really about androids. Okay, yes, the whole book is about androids. Every character in there, except Pierre and Alicia, is an android. Okay, Vladimir, also the few people in chapter one are also not androids, but it's mostly about androids. But the androids are a metaphor. It's basically the whole theme of the second book of All the Stars as Angels is that children become like their parents. That's the theme of the second book. It really doesn't have anything to do with androids. It has that. It's more of a saga of growing up and discovering who you are as a child. Okay, so actually, Gandalf, you can ask that question. That question's fine for today. We'll get to that one. But yeah, that's the whole point of this. This is a book about growing up and discovering who you are in relation to your parents. Okay? So, and I think that makes the second book very, very poignant because it's a universal theme. We all have to discover that. We all discover on our own what happens when we grow up and we discover, hey, I'm not that much different than my parents. So, so that's what we've kind of gotten into now, is we start off with this sort of educational goal, basically a fun, an edutainment goal, and we've now gone into, okay, we're into these deeper themes, deeper understandings, and what it means for us as human beings. So, hope that helps, and I hope that answers that question. Next one here. Okay, great question here from Mama. Did you get the idea for androids needing more energy to stand, not walking, just standing, than sit from modern current robotics? Current robotics seems to have so much issues with maintaining balance. No, I actually got this from a different thing altogether, which is that that humans require more energy standing than sitting. Frankly, people get tired when they stand. Why do they get tired when they stand? Because it consumes more energy than when they sit. So this is just biomechanics. This is just biomechanics. You know, we do as human beings consume more energy standing than sitting. It is actually an energy intensive process to stand. And we are at a lower energy state as human beings when we sit than when we stand. And I don't know about you, but after standing for a couple hours, I'm pretty tired. Let's just yeah, you actually get more tired from standing than walking. So it is an energy formula. It's absolutely an energy formula. And so it is something that's sort of, you know, just the biomechanics of standing requires more energy. So it would make sense if you are a culture that's trying to conserve energy, you would want to encourage more sitting than standing. Okay. CPM versus DOS. I get tired standing faster. Yeah, I think we all do. It says to Jack Ray, Chapter 1, as she's talking about Reliquary of the Dead, professional rock bottom. Chapter 2, his personal rock bottom. Chapter 3, coming to terms, essentially, with his exile. Second he wakes up from his space nap, it's game on. Absolutely. Absolutely. But that rock bottom is important. Okay? That rock bottom is formative of his wrong ideas. Okay? And the wrong idea that, I mean, every character has flaws, every character has wrong ideas. And the wrong idea that Pierre carries with them is someone abuses him and he just has to take it. That's his wrong idea. And that's the idea that has to change in Pierre. for him to ultimately get his redemption. He has to come to terms with the fact that people are going to continually wrong him. They're going to continue to take away his discoveries. They're going to continue to abuse him. But he doesn't have to be a passive participant in that. Gandalf the Base. Dang, that's relatable. Yeah, it is relatable. It is absolutely relatable. So that's his story. That's Pierre's story of being abused, taken advantage of, his work stolen from him, and then he finds a new way of working around that. And in finding that new way to work around it, he triumphs. He triumphs. He saves the colony and wins the day. But he has to come to that breaking point where his false belief no longer becomes tenable. That false belief that he is being stolen from and there's nothing he can do about it. And that's where he finds his grit. That's where he finds his breakthrough. And once he finds that breakthrough, all the pieces of the puzzle of Glees fall into place. And that's what makes his story so compelling. Is, yeah, people treat him like crap from the beginning to the end. Mama says he has no more illusions as to his prospects on Earth, and he learns that what he personally has to do differently as he goes forward in his new world. Yeah. It's not an easy lesson for him. He has struggles in it, but in doing so, he overcomes. Mama, Pierre learns to overcome, to persist. Yeah, exactly. Jack Ray says, sounds a lot like the Punisher comics, but less shooting. Yeah, less shooting. You want lots of gunfire? That'll be book 3. A lot of gunfire in book 3. Mama says less graphicness too. Yeah. John Wick in space, I hope. No, not quite. Not quite. Okay, where were we here? Let's get back to where we were in the questions. Yeah, the Punisher comics were pretty dark. I was not a huge fan of the Punisher. Killbot problem. Mask of Shy, I wonder if he's talking about the killbot problem here. I wonder if that can be applied to other genres. Maybe an alien kill problem or evil government problem. It can be. The killbot problem, though, is really specific to AI. We've sort of, because of AIs and robots' close association with the uncanny valley problem, it almost makes the killbot problem unavoidable. But you could apply it to the alien problem too. In fact, many physicists do. Neil deGrasse Tyson basically says you don't want to invite aliens because they'll just come and kill us all. So he's like Tyson is applying the killbot problem to the alien problem. And 25. CPM versus DOS. Would I have issue on Gleese being tall? No, you wouldn't. There's a lot of tall people on Gleese. Hans is tall. Vlodomir's tall. They're all tall people on Gleese. Just Kier happens to be short. Terry's tall. Terry is tall. Okay. Have any more questions? I think we're almost out of questions here anyway. Looks like it. I think we've come to the end of this. And I think that's the last question. Okay. I don't think I missed any. Did I miss any? Cool. Well, this is your one opportunity to ask any questions regarding this book series or the publishing industry or anything else, except for ancient Egypt and the Bible. We're not taking those questions today. Good night, Mama. Glad you could join us. Thank you for being here. You asked some great questions. I loved all the questions. They were really, really. Oh, the primordial God question. Okay, where was that? Story Gandalf. Let me find that. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Gandalf the base. And this will probably be the last question of the night because it is the last question we have here. So, man, I got to understand where you're pulling the primordial spirit critters from when it comes to the Bible, because you're only one who seems to mention it, but I'll save that for Friday. Okay. Every ancient Near Eastern culture has a version of this. Okay. Always find it in Egyptian myth. Okay. It's explicitly in the Egyptian myth, particularly in the creation story of the god Re. Okay. In the Egyptian creation myth, creation begins as primordial waters. And when the primordial waters, I wouldn't say were created, because we're not really told how the primordial waters came about. They just existed. Along with these primordial waters were these gods that resided in the waters. And from the waters, the egg of Ra was created and the sun god Re was hatched. Well, those gods that resided in the waters, they were a side effect of creation. They weren't explicitly created. They weren't created for any particular purpose. They're sort of this side effect of creation. And the Egyptians called these the Pesjet Necher, the primordial gods, the ancient gods, the gods that coincided with creation itself. The Bible has something very similar to this, which is that when God created the heavens, there were these chaos monsters. Okay, and these are mentioned in various passages, like references to Rehav, Leviathan, Behemoth. These are the chaos monsters. These are the monsters that were the side effect of creation itself. It seems that in the ancient Near Eastern conception of creation is not just a physical act. It's a spiritual act. It's a spiritual act. And that spiritual act of a deity creating a physical thing results in a side effect of a spiritual thing. So God creates a universe, and as he's creating the physical universe, there's these spirit entities that are created, as I said, almost as a side effect. But the side effect, these chaos monsters wreak havoc. Okay? They're not beholden to anything or anyone, and they just sort of spread chaos. So God goes in afterwards and vanquishes or pacifies, you can do either one, vanquishes or pacifies these chaos monsters. But this leaves a problem. How is creation maintained without a spiritual entity under the scenes supporting the physical? So in the metaphysics of the ancient world, a physical thing cannot exist on its own. There needs to be a spiritual entity supporting it. And we see this, for example, in like Colossians, where Jesus Christ is the creator and maintainer, upholder of creation. So deity isn't just creating something and letting it just run. It's not a deist universe. It's a universe that requires spiritual entities to uphold and maintain the proper function and working of creation. So, after these chaos monsters are vanquished, they are replaced with these primordial gods, essentially lower angelic like, but not angels. They're not really angels because they're not messengers, but these lower principalities and powers that fill in the vacuum for these chaos monsters and uphold creation. Okay. And this is where we get the idea of the Council of Gods from. Is the Council of Gods are essentially these placeholder minor deities, these spirit critters that uphold and maintain creation. Now, some of them rebel. And we see that, for example, in the book of Job, not Job, Jude. See this in the book of Jude, where these angelic powers abandon their abode. And that's a really important thing here, is that they abandon their abode to become rulers themselves. Okay? That abode is their place, their responsibility, their sphere of influence. So they're not interested in, so many of these are not interested in being servants, but rulers. So that's sort of how it fits into, say, biblical theology. I see your follow-up questions here. We'll take those. Ganelbase says, wait, so they are created without God creating them? They're created as God creates. So God creates them because, at least the Chaos Monsters are created with creation because he has to create the spiritual entity and the physical at the same time. Okay? It's not that they have different creators. It's they have the same creator. It's just that God has to start with this sort of blank slate creation that requires the creation of these chaos monsters to sort of prop up creation. And the idea here is, if God created a physical realm without a spiritual realm, the physical would just fall apart. It would be like building a house without a foundation. Okay, so in the idea of the ancient Near East, you can't just create a physical world. You can't create a materialist world. They could not conceive of a materialist world. It's the idea that in order to have a material world, you have to have a spiritual world holding it up in some way. And to begin with, that's with chaos monsters. Later on, that's with primordial deities. Later on, we see that Christ is doing this. He then asks, so are you saying the minor deities uphold creation? Doesn't Christ uphold creation? Ultimately, yes, it's Christ. Ultimately, it's Christ. But the minor deities uphold it because they are subordinate to Christ. That's the thing. They're not doing it on their own initiative and by their own power. They're doing it because they are subordinated to the ultimate deity. And they derive their power from the ultimate deity. Sorry? Yeah, and being subordinate annoys them, as my producer just said. Yeah, they don't want to be subordinate. But they derive their power from their creation. And that creation is from Christ. So, and Gandalf bases, so maintain like maintenance rather than foundational upholding. Yeah, absolutely. It's a maintenance kind of upholding. Okay, so they're supporting what already exists. They're not and if they vacate the premises, the creation then collapses. So now it doesn't in practical terms, because Christ can just move in and uphold it. But without that spiritual foundation, creation is said to collapse. Mask of Shy says, maybe those other rebel spirits pushed other tribes to adore other gods like Baal. Yeah, it's possible. Possible. Gan of the base. Okay, just trying to clarify because I got a little concerned there for a second. Well, it's not something we talk about in our churches much. Really, it isn't. It's all there, but we never talk about it. I mean, I have heard the very occasional lecture on the chaos deities, but I've never heard one on the primordial deities. You know, the chaos gods. You know, the chaos conf. You know, that's been in sort of German biblical literature for over 100 years. So some of that has gotten into the occasional sermon from time to time. But I've never heard anyone talk about the primordial deities. And they're there too. They're there too. Yeah. Well, I think because of, say, concordant views of Genesis, like creationism, like theistic evolution, those are concordant views where basically you try to reconcile science to the Bible. Our views, yeah, science doesn't leave any room for primordial gods either. So I think in many respects, our views of Genesis are very materialistic. Even say amongst, say, the fundamentalist set, you know, you know, I've never heard much of creationists talk about the heavenly hosts of Genesis 1 as anything other than stars. You know, creationists really talk about, say, creation in materialist terms. So, but there's a whole spiritual reality that's happening under the cover of Genesis that, say, these concordant views scarcely touch. That's essentially a materialist view with a few extra steps. So, Gan of the base. Okay, so the physical has to be parallel to a spiritual. I can see that in the ancient Near East, and absolutely, that is part of this. Gan of the base. Are there any researchers that can be read up on this? Because I'm assuming you're not the first to mention this. Heiser's probably the best source. It's not perfect on this, but he's the best source currently on this. I disagree with some of his Council of Gods assessments. I think they are not exactly as nuanced and complete as they should be. And I mean, he does go very much into detail on his Council of Gods ideas, but he doesn't really tell us. He sort of misses a step. You know, he goes from Chaos Conf, Chaos Monsters right to Council of Gods while missing that primordial god step. But that's an important step in this whole theological trajectory of creation to chaos chaos monsters to primordial gods to Council of Gods to the fallen deities to Christ as upholder of all creation. There's a theological trajectory there, and he misses that primordial god step. But he's not actually. Yeah, Jack Ray's got it right here. Heiser seems like a man with a council of hammers and sees everything as a nail. Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong about that. He sees a council of gods everywhere, even when it's not appropriate to apply it to the text. I also think that in some ways, his view of, say, the diversity of the spirit world is a little bit impoverished. because he does tend to focus on the Council of Gods things so much. I don't think he sort of realized that there's an incredible diversity to spiritual life. Many kinds of spirit critters. Many kinds of spirit critters. Much more than we normally take. Yeah, he included cherubim, seraphim, and sometimes he conflated cherubim and seraphim. Sometimes for him, he counted them one as the same. They're not the same. He had watchers. Okay? The sons of God. Watchers and sons of God for him were the same thing. So he tended to conflate spiritual beings a lot. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he wasn't building on, say, on these views that we talk about here, and he is very much a Second Temple period literature scholar. Okay, so when we talk about Heiser and his views, it's deeply influenced by that era of thinking. Whereas in my case, I'm much more influenced by late Bronze Age literature. Yeah. So I see a lot of the Bible as being subsequent to this background information that you find in the late Bronze Age. So anyway, I think that's our last question. So this would probably be a good time for us to wrap it up. If anyone has a final comment or question, we would love to take it, but we don't. I think this is a good time. It was a great live stream. We got to talk lots about our book tonight, All the Stars as Angels. We had one caller come in, which is excellent. AT Ministry is going to be kicking himself again for missing this, but that's his problem. Again, if you have read, particularly if you've read our first book, Reliquary of the Dead, please leave a review on Amazon. That is the way you can help us the best, is by leaving those reviews. Amazon wants those reviews. I want those reviews. It would really help us to get those reviews. We are trying to strive to get 50 reviews for book 1 at least. But if you add reviews for book 2 as well, we would really appreciate that also. Okay? So we hope you found this sort of background look into what went into the writing of these books. We hope you found that enjoyable. We want to thank all the super chatters tonight who supported us. We want to thank our Patreon and our YouTube membership guys who help us with keeping the lights on and the equipment repaired. We also want to thank our very regular viewers as well, who hit that like and subscribe button and recommend our videos to other social media outlets, because you guys get the message out. You distribute us more than the algorithm does, so we really appreciate that. CPM versus DOS, can't wait for the third book in the third stream. We will say this, we'll leave you on this last note. The third book will be probably coming out in 2026. Okay, so you are going to have to wait until next year for it. Okay, so but it is almost done, and we are very much looking forward to getting it out there. So anyway, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We are glad you could make it, and we will see you next time on Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Have a great night, everyone.